point.
On today's episode, Amazon is developing Stargate, Legally Blonde, RoboCop movies and TV shows, and a whole bunch more. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Top Gun Maverick star Glen Powell is going to be the star of the new Twister sequel known as Twisters. Reports are going around that Disney is currently discussing removing Jonathan Majors as Kang, but there are contradictory reports to that as well. We'll go over that in just a little bit. Dungeons & Dragons may be the best film this year that is a complete flop. What are the chances that it has of getting a sequel? Also, a brand new Hunger Games movie is coming, but we're hearing absolutely nobody talk about it. Was a mistake for them to try to develop one without its star Jennifer Lawrence. Did Guardians of the Galaxy 3 star Sean Gunn just reveal that Rocket Raccoon actually dies in the movie? And speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's on pace right now to possibly top Mario Brothers as the #1 opening box office movie of the year. We'll talk about its chances. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, not just giving you our opinions, but giving you information and context so you can form your own better informed decisions yourself. Joining me here in the studio today, back there we got Ray Ora, Taylor Gonzalez is back there, Jonathan Voico running the show, the delightful Chris Carr is here, and most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for making this show part of your day. Here's how today's show is going to go. We break it into two parts. The first part of the show, we'll talk about those predetermined topics. Second part of the show, we're going to take your questions that you guys have been sending in for the last 24 hours to our tip link at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. You don't have to wait for the show to be live to send in a question. You can send it in anytime, and we'll get to a bunch of those in the second part of the show. Now, with that down, let's get into it here. Amazon has been making some pretty big moves, declaring its very, very big seriousness about busting into the entertainment industry. Of course, regardless of what you think about the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power series, they showed they were dead serious about it by investing $1 billion into it. Now, whether you think it turned out good or turned out bad, you got to acknowledge that meant they were serious. And they've continued to make big plays. Well, they came out, and following their acquisition of MGM, it looks like they are really going to go hard, as it's being reported in Deadline that MGM, Amazon, is looking at developing TV shows and movies for the likes of RoboCop, Stargate, Legally Blonde, Barbershop, and a whole bunch more. Some TV shows, some movies, and some for both. This comes to us from Deadline, who wrote the following. MGM's extensive film and TV catalog built over the past century was the main driver behind Amazon's $8.5 billion acquisition of the storied Hollywood studio. For the past year, since the deal closed in March of 2022, Amazon Studios has been sifting through MGM's library, identifying about a dozen initial titles for film and or TV development, including RoboCop, Stargate, Legally Blonde, Fame, which is a brand name I've not heard spoken in a while, Barbershop, The Magnificent Seven with Antoine Fuqua, just did a movie of that a few years ago. Seven? Oh, no, that's Magnificent Seven. I thought there was a comma there. Wait, I got to see here. Seven. Pink Panther and The Thomas Crown Affair. Now, they go on to kind of define this a bit. Each title is being approached differently, some being steered towards film, some towards TV, and some big ones are going to get both. For instance, Amazon Studios is in active early conversations on Legally Blonde, both for a movie and a potential TV series, sources said. There have already been on and off efforts to get a third Legally Blonde film off the ground in the past 5 years. Amazon had similar plans for Stargate. We hear both film and TV installments are considered, with a movie likely going first. RoboCop is also being talked about for both film and TV, with a TV show possibly first. Deadline here's. Additionally, Amazon Studios is actively developing TV series based on Fame, Barbershop, and The Magnificent Seven, sources said. And Thomas Crown Affair in there for good measure. A couple of interesting ones in there. And let me get these ones out of the way first. Fame. Really? Was that Debbie? Who was like the star of the original Fame? It was Debbie something or other.
The movie or the show?
Because the show was
Debbie
6
Allen?
seasons.
It was Debbie Allen. That's what I was thinking of. Really?
The movie
A school?
scarred me for life.
A movie about a school of peppy
Misfits.
artist kids. Is that something that's going to sell today? I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
I think so.
Think so?
I think so.
Do you think that's kind of like an afterglow of the Glee success or something
Kind
like
of.
that?
And well, with Fame, you have the potential of it not being all shiny and, very, very auto-tuned and pretty like Glee. Like Fame deals with a lot of really horrible themes. It deals with a lot of familial violence. It deals with
Yeah.
drug usage. It deals with the casting couch nature of being an actor. I mean, the Fame film has a scene that is just so
Yeah.
jarring that I watched way too young and was like, oh my God, I'll never trust anyone ever. So there's a lot of stuff that you could do that I think people would really resonate with.
It's just an again, it's just not a property I've heard mentioned at all.
Well,
in
and
the
this is
last
like a
number-
weird Mount Rushmore of television, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Legally Blonde's another interesting one.
Yeah.
That's another, like, it really? Legally Blonde. Okay. Again, listen, but then again, I must confess, Legally Blonde was never my wheelhouse, so maybe I'm underestimating just how popular. Like, hey, listen,
Freaking
I'll
love
admit,
it.
I underestimated the frickin' witch sisters at Disney.
Wicked. Or, oh no, I was still in
Hocus
musicals.
Pocus?
On
Hocus
Frozen?
Pocus.
Or,
I drastically underestimated
Okay.
the Hocus Pocus's thing because it ended up being a big hit for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I underestimated that. And maybe I'm underestimating this. The ones to me that are standing out, obviously, that are probably most interesting people, RoboCop, which I could totally see with today's context that we live in, modern visual effects, go ahead and do a movie. Now, you might be screaming at your monitor right now saying, but John, they did that just a few years ago and the results weren't great. I contend that the results weren't bad. And Rick Flag was the star of that movie, Ray. Joel Kinnaman was your star of that movie. You should be happy about that.
We're talking about RoboCop, right?
Yeah. I contend it wasn't that bad of a movie. I mean, it was nowhere near as good as the original, but I thought Michael Keaton was fantastic in it. And I think at minimum, even with its shortcomings, I think the latest RoboCop movie, I think it at least showed us what could be done with a good script if you wanted to do RoboCop today. So I could see that. The television aspect of it, though, I find weird because it just kind of becomes another Law and Order
yeah,
weekly
it's a procedural then.
crime of the week thing. And I'm also not big on, I've never been big on the idea of doing a movie and TV shows. If it's all connected, right? I've never been a big thing of that.
I think the nostalgia factor of RoboCop runs out real quick. So to do a TV series, you'd have to make it really different, or give us something that we haven't seen, some aspect, some angle of this character that we'll keep tuning back in for. You know what I mean? Because after you get over the initial, my favorite part of RoboCop is when they first introduce him, and all
Right.
the cops are like, you just see his footsteps,
Yep.
and then they slowly pan up and show him. That is like one of the greatest entrances in all movies right there. But after that, what else do you have? So
It almost feels like it would be a modern day Knight Rider. Or, deep cut coming. Automan. Anybody remember?
I've never heard.
Anybody remember Automan?
Tell
I don't
me.
even think Jonathan could find a picture.
What's Automan?
Automan.
Describe this real quick.
Okay, so Automan was a short-lived television
Oh my
series
God.
based in that came out in the early 80s, and I think it was kind of a not so indirect knockoff of Tron with the growing computer craze at
So
the
is
day.
it spelled A-U, like automobile?
AUTO Automan, I think it was. And he was this like computer program come to life. So I don't know what you do there. The one though that I think has the best, there it is, Automan.
Did you ever doubt my skills?
I can't remember what grade I was in when
What
that
kind
guy. I
of
was
face is he making right there? Like, oh yeah.
A little bit of a fart.
he's like,
Just a little one cheek sneak.
I was gonna go with I just touched your daughter, and there was his car.
God.
There's that car. Look at that. It would like spring to life out of the digital realm, and he would go around and fight crime. Automan.
That car is sweet.
Like out of that.
Oh God!
Yeah.
You know what else was out in that era? I just remembered. Does anybody remember? Deep cut here. The Powers of Matthew Starr. Does anybody remember that? Nope.
What is that?
Didn't think so. That was another short-lived science fiction kind of show where this kid finds out that he's actually an alien. There it is. The Powers of Matthew Starr. This kid finds out that he's actually an alien, and he was
alien
sent to
fencer.
Earth, and he's got his guardian. And he's going to have these incredible powers, and another alien race is out to get. That's me on the dance floor.
nice.
That's
I almost wore
basically
that
my
today.
dance moves right there. But anyway, why am I going off on this? Oh, yes, we were talking about Amazon. You want to go deep, Amazon? Reboot some Automan and the powers of Matthew Starr. Okay, anyway, Stargate. Stargate is the one that to me is the most interesting because Stargate has a track record of being able to have a movie franchise and multiple television franchises. And I know, listen, it's not the biggest fan base in the world, but it is a passionate fan base. The Stargate fan base is a passionate fan base. And I think there is a lot there. I think there's a lot of potential there for rebooting that in both movies and TV shows. Anyway, there's a lot of other things in there. Chris, that's a pretty big laundry list that they said they're going to go into developing. Which are the ones that are more interesting to you?
Thomas Crown Affair. I love
that. Because that's kind of like your
Heisty.
Born James Bond kind of,
You know, it's got some white collar notes to it too, especially as a series, right? So you can be looking at the world of, white collar crime and art theft and everything and art plagiarism. And that movie is just sexy. It's just a good one. I love the reboot version with Pierce Brosnan
and Renee
Russo.
Yeah,
my gosh,
I really like that
good.
movie. Yeah.
It's such a great film. So I think there's a lot of potential there. Stargate obviously is something that has definite legs. Legally Blonde, honestly, there is such a huge following to it. I love Legally Blonde. I think it's so fun. And there's a popular musical that they did of Legally Blonde, too.
I did not know this.
So they keep mining that one. And I think as long as you get the right Elle Woods, should be a fun time.
I think Barbershop could be really fun.
I mean, that's another one that has always maintained a fan base and has, more importantly, maintained its place in pop culture. Right. It's one of those things that's never really disappeared from the zeitgeist. It's always kind of been there. So that could be mined into something really good, too. So a lot of stuff on the list. Guys, question is for you. Out of that big list, what are the things that you find most interesting? Is it Fame? Is it Stargate? Is it RoboCop? Is it the powers of Matthew Starr? Oh, that's not on the list, but it should be on the list. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know who's having a really good time right now is Top Gun Maverick star Glen Powell. Not only is he in one of the biggest hits of all time with Top Gun Maverick, a movie that some people say kind of saved the movie industry. I mean, between that and Spider-Man No Way Home and things like that, I mean, it's an incredibly successful film. He, of course, was a big standout in the movie. Then he just had Devotion, which nobody saw, but it's actually quite a good movie. It's quite good. And he's got a number of really interesting projects lined up that are coming out as well. Well, apparently you might be able to add another one to the list because according to a report in Variety, Glen Powell is now in talks to star in the Twister sequel to be known as Twisters. Starring Where the Crawdads Sing and Serve Dinner, Daisy Edgar Jones is going to be his co-star in that. And this looks great. This is what they say over there at Variety. Glen Powell is in talks opposite Daisy Edgar Jones, who is, of course, from Where the Crawdads Sing, in Universal and Amblin Entertainment's Twisters, a sequel to the 1996 Twister. Minari Helmer, Lee Isaac Chung, which they announced this a while ago, is directing the film from a script by The Revenant writer Mark L. Smith. Twisters is set to release on July 19th, 2024. Now, we all remember the first movie, but the interesting is a paragraph beneath that. I totally forgot how stacked that cast is, because when I think of that movie, I always think, of course, Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
But I totally forget that Wesley
team. Yeah.
is in there. Kelly Elwes and Philip Seymour Hoffman was in that, like before he was considered a powerhouse in the industry. That was a mess. And for the era, 1996, that movie made $500 million, $500 million. In that era, that was pretty damn good.
There was a Universal ride of it.
Was there?
You could go on the Twister ride.
I did.
Oh,
I mean, I
yeah.
started going after that, I suppose.
And I had a game they made out of
They
it.
made a game out of it.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I think this is great because Glen Powell, he's got, it's not very often that somebody with a, say, Ryan Gosling or even a Ryan Reynolds kind of on-screen charm comes across. It's not that often. Glen Powell's got it. That intangible X factor, he's just got it. And then, when you go from Top Gun Maverick over to Devotion, you see, oh, he's not just really good looking, has lots of charm and smoothness. He's a hell of an actor at the same time. So you put him with something like this, a movie that I quite frankly never thought would really happen. They've been talking about a Twister sequel for a couple of years. I never thought it would actually come to fruition. Now it looks like it is. Anyway, Chris, you're hearing about this. It looks like Glen Powell's signing up to join Twisters. What do you think about the premise of the movie at all, them even doing a sequel? But then what do you think about the addition of Glen Powell as well?
I mean, I'm frustrated that we haven't addressed the biggest question here, which is who is playing the cow? Where's the cow? The people want to know. I love this for Glen Powell. I first fell in love with him in Scream Queens. I adored him in that. I think he was so great and Set It Up on Netflix. And it's really been great to see his career thrive because he can also just land a joke. He has great comedic timing.
He really does,
on top of these wonderful acting chops, because those two things aren't always congruent. Sometimes you can have a wonderful dramatic actor who just doesn't understand punchlines, and he does. And when he gets to lean into being a himbo, gosh, does he do a great job of that too. So I think this is a really, really fun mix. Again, though, where's my cow? And if they do a third movie, what's that going to be called?
Oh, you know there's going to be a cow.
No, there has to be a cow.
know they
There
will
has
do
to
a
be
cow.
If there's not a
scene,
cow,
right?
the people will
There's got to be
riot.
multiple now because it's Twisters.
Because there's
so
two
it's multiple
twisters at
cows.
least.
Yeah.
So we got to have at least two.
Two cow, two twister.
Two bits of beef.
Okay, and there's a thing. Sex,
Oh,
political intrigue, natural disaster movies. These are three things in movies that never go out of style.
well, he's coming.
That in every era,
Phrasing.
in every single era of movies, those three things will sell. And natural disaster movies never go out of style.
they don't.
People love natural disaster movies.
I mean, that was at the height of the disaster porn movies.
Armageddon,
yeah.
Volcano, Dante's Peak, all that kind of stuff.
Dante's Peak.
And it's something that really works because there's so much you can do with it that crosses visual spectacle with tragedy. One of the recent ones, again, nobody saw it, with Gerard Butler was called Greenland. That was another giant asteroid movie, but I tell you what, it was so good. It started to rival Armageddon, which is a guilty pleasure of mine. I know a lot of people think that movie sucks. That's fine. I love that movie. I unabashedly love that movie. But at any rate, so I think this can really work. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? Not just that it looks like Twisters is moving forward, but it looks like Glen Powell's going to join it as the male lead. How do you feel about that? Are you interested in the film? Maybe you never even saw the original. You really should. It's fun. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this. The Jonathan Majors situation is one of those ones that is kind of hanging over the film fan world right now because everybody's kind of waiting to see how this is going to turn out. Now, of course, we don't have to go into this in detail. You guys have heard what's going on. There was accusations of abuse. Police arrested Jonathan Majors. He's been charged. Then Jonathan Majors' lawyer said, we have concrete video evidence that shows it's not true. We have witness testimony. We're going to get this thrown out really quickly. That was a month ago, and charges have still not been dropped, which means the DA is sitting on something. Now, again, I am making no guesses as to the innocence or guilt of Jonathan Majors. I wasn't there. I have not seen court documents, so I'm staying out of that. I don't know either way, but everybody's waiting to find out because Jonathan Majors not only is one of the great actors running right now, and he's on a total hot streak at the moment, but for Marvel fans in particular, he's got a very, very important part to play. He's Kang. The guy who, I didn't think they'd make Kang the next big bad of the next couple of phases, but he is. They made him the next big bad of the next couple of phases, and everybody's kind of waiting to find out what's going on. And will he be able to stay in the role? Will he have to be removed from the role? Will charges get dropped? Will charges get filed? All that kind of stuff. Well, yesterday you may have seen some headlines running around, like this one here. You may have seen some headlines going around like this one and a few others saying Disney is discussing removing Jonathan Majors as Kang. Disney is looking at firing Jonathan Majors. Is Jonathan Majors on the way out as Kang? And these headlines. Now, here's where these headlines came from. They came from Jeff Snyder, who is a reporter. He's done some stuff with us before. He's a reporter who has broken several major stories in the last year. And all these headlines are coming from one thing that Jeff said. He said he heard that Disney is discussing the situation and that Jonathan Majors' representation, his not his lawyer's representation, but rather his agent, have been discussing the situation, which of course is, to quote Lawrence Fishburne in the DCU, water wet. Of course they're discussing the situation. They've been discussing the situation since day one. Where the whole thing is about Disney is discussing removing Jonathan Majors. That is something that everybody else took editorial license with. Now, them discussing things may include that they're discussing removing him. I guess that's a possibility, but nowhere in Jeff's report is that what's implied. It very well could be they're discussing how long they're going to wait before they announce his next project as Kang. It could be they're discussing, how they're just going to navigate the minefield that's going to be out there now. It could be a lot of different things. But the moment this issue happened with Jonathan Majors, of course they're talking, but what are they talking about? And that is something that's never been out there. Because while you're getting headlines like this one, and you bring that one up again, Jonathan, is Jonathan Majors on his way out? At the same day, the same day that those headlines are going out, you go over to Yahoo Entertainment, and it's Jonathan Majors will reportedly remain in the MCU despite controversy. So you start getting all these contradictory things. These other headlines saying Disney discussing getting rid of Jonathan Majors. Other headlines saying reportedly he's going to stay on. They're going to move forward with him. I think the reality is everybody's full of shit. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Because everybody who thinks they're going to get rid of Jonathan Majors, guess what? If in 2 weeks the DA comes out and says, yeah, we've seen enough evidence to prove that Jonathan Majors didn't do anything, we're dropping the charges. Guess what? Nothing changes that. The MCU moves forward with their plans, everything moves forward, and this will be forgotten about. Or in 2 weeks, the DA comes out and says, we have concrete evidence that Jonathan Majors, was beaten on somebody, and we are bringing him to trial, and we're going to prosecute. Well, then everybody who's saying that Disney's going to stick with them, guess what? That's going to change real quick too. So the news here is there's no news. Of course, Disney, like Jeff is absolutely right. Disney is discussing the situation. Of course they are. They're also discussing what they're going to get for lunch. But at the end of the day, right now, until the legal system starts to move forward and we start to see what's going to happen with Jonathan Majors one way or the other, no news. There's no news right now. So all these headlines you see flying around today, you can just skip them and look the other way. Anyway, Chris, you saw these things flying around, people talking about this. What's your first impression of it?
I mean, honestly, I think the whole creating a narrative about them talking, it's very, very reminiscent of what WB is finally doing, right, about Ezra Miller, of just, we are having these conversations. Okay, it took WB months and months and months and months and months.
Oh, 2 years.
Actually
years.
Say they were doing this, right? And talking about doing something is very different, obviously, than doing something. But I do feel like that's why this story is even circulating to begin with of, hey, no. We will do something should we know what we need to do. So there's all of that. This story is so messy right now, too. There's all the speculation around it. The lawyer, as you were saying, is claiming they have this evidence. Those texts have been revealed, too, between the two of these people, supposedly. We've had some directors, A.B. Allen and Tim Nicolai, tweet about how Jonathan Majors has exhibited behavior that's problematic in the past, but also that's all hearsay. We don't know about any of this. We really don't know what happened. So really what it comes down to is if Jonathan Majors committed a crime, then yeah, Disney's going to do something about that, and rightly so. If he didn't, then he'll be proven innocent, and we'll move forward from there. That's the thing right now, is right now there's no concrete evidence for anyone else to weigh in on this who wasn't in that room and doesn't know what happened.
At least no concrete evidence that we're seeing.
Exactly, yeah.
Right now, right?
That hasn't been released to the public. And of course, the court of public opinion is always going to have their own mindset on things. Everyone's already making things. Twitter is wildly divisive, right? Of, this is a clear-cut case of abuse. We're not going to support this actor. Other people saying we are being so quick to jump on this actor for these allegations, yada, yada. Everyone's going to form their own opinions, but hopefully we get more data so those opinions have some facts tied to them too.
Yeah, and hopefully we as an audience can learn we should also wait for data. Mm-hmm. We should wait for more information and see how that goes. And hopefully it all gets cleared up. Hopefully this all gets cleared up. Everything moves forward. Everything's good. Yeah. But again, the news here is that there is no news right now. We are all still in a wait and see pattern. So there's that. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Whatever your thoughts on the matter are, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on now to our Mint Mobile hotline questions of the day. If you guys have a question for the show and you'd like to hear your voice on the show, go ahead and call our hotline number anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259, and maybe your call will be one that gets selected for the show. And our first one up here today is talking about the glory and the tragedy of Dungeons and Dragons.
Hey, John and crew, it's Zach, the bartender from Ohio, calling about Dungeons and Dragons. I just saw that it made about $126 million worldwide on a $150 million budget, and that is just sad because that has been one of the best movies of the year, honestly. Felt like the script was well done, the acting and everybody did a really good job together, and I was just wondering, will there ever be an opportunity for them to make a sequel? Because that was a great movie. Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for taking my question, and don't have a good day. Have a great one.
Always love a little guy.
Little free guy.
Little
yeah.
free guy reference in there. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, let's talk about this. It's always, to me, incredibly sad when, well, first of all, it's always sad when any movie kind of tanks, even if it's a bad movie. There's a real sad and unfortunate part of that, because regardless of what you think about a movie, there are hundreds of people, sometimes thousands, that poured their blood, sweat, tears, passion, creativity for 1, 2, 3 years into getting a movie made and put out. And it's always sad when it fails, even if it fails because it's not a good movie. It's particularly tragic to me when a great movie, not a good movie, a great movie tanks. And Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves is one of those. It is a great movie that absolutely has tanked. Now, there's no real surprise about it tanking. When they announced this movie, all of us on our show and a lot of other people expressed that this movie doesn't really, it's interesting that they chose to make this movie because there's not really a path to victory for it. Like everybody kind of knew. We on this show, people who watch this show, other people do other shows. We all kind of knew when they first announced this movie, this is not going to financially succeed. Now, maybe it'll be a good movie. We hope it will be. But the stench of the original one is still out there. While Dungeons and Dragons as a game is certainly growing in popularity, of course, you have the Netflix thing and all that kind of stuff. I just don't see how a movie succeeds. And pretty much everybody kind of felt that way. And I hope that the studio knew that too. I hope that the studio knew in making this movie that they better not be looking for quick financial returns on the first film. That I hope Universal's, wait, was Universal Paramount?
I
thought it was Universal. Maybe it was Paramount. No, you know what? It was Paramount.
It's Paramount for
Paramount.
Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, it's Paramount. I hope what Paramount's plan was, hey, we know the first one's going to take a hit, but the idea is we're rebuilding the brand. So put out a good movie, a great movie, get people enjoying it, and then hopefully we can do a sequel and a third film and build on the success, the quality success of that. Because if Paramount went into Dungeons and Dragons just thinking, we're going to make $500 million, then you're probably not great at your job if you thought that. But if the plan was, hey, we're going to need the first movie to take a hit, but we need it to take a hit with people really enjoying it and word of mouth getting out about it. Because it's going to have to be a long game play. It's got to be a long gameplay. It can't be a short gameplay. Now, of course, as we go over and take a look here at the actual financial results of the movie, the caller is right. This is the type of number a movie that cost $150 million to make. This is the kind of number, $127 million, that you want to make on opening weekend. That you're looking to make that on opening. You're hoping to make somewhere close to that on opening weekend. Of course, it doesn't have a bad opening weekend. It made almost $40 million opening weekend, $37 million opening weekend. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's fine. But it just was not able to build a ton of momentum after that. And it's going to end up costing the studio a lot of money. Despite the fact, look at these numbers. 91% critic rating, 93% audience rating. I mean, the critics loved it. The fans who saw it, the people who saw the movie, loved it. And it's a delightful, delightful film. So I am hoping that the story of Dungeons and Dragons is not over. You're asking in the question there, what are the chances that we get the sequel? It can get a sequel if Paramount's plan from the beginning was understanding this first movie was going to struggle to make money and that they were hoping to rebuild and rehabilitate the brand for future success. If that was their plan for the beginning and they had that kind of foresight and they're laying the groundwork, then we're going to get a sequel. And that sequel hopefully will make $350 million or $400 million or whatever. The hope is it could follow like a John Wick kind of trajectory where the first one, man, it's all right, but the second and the third one and the fourth one, that's the hope. That's hope. But if their plan was, I bet Dungeons and Dragons movie will be a big hit today, well, then they've already buried this thing. So that's the hope. Anyway, Chris, you saw the numbers that are coming in here, the financial returns for it, the critic and the audience things. These two numbers do not go together. That kind of critic and audience response with that kind of box office. What do you think the chances here are that we could see a Dungeons and Dragons sequel?
Well, first I was trying to check. Is it already on streaming?
I don't think so.
Been dumped? Okay. Because I think that could also give it a second life of seeing how well it does on a streaming platform on Paramount Plus. Because we saw that with Sonic too. Sonic did fairly well in theaters, but also had a really big boom just because of being on streaming, and a lot of people fell in love with it that way. I do think there's a lot of potential for this to continue on. So many people, and we've talked about this before, so many people just kept asking me, am I going to like this movie or understand it because I haven't played D&D.
Yes.
Like my dad kept asking me and Logan about that. I had a couple of friends be like, hey, can you just give me the basics of it before I go see this movie? Because I don't think I'm going to get it otherwise. And this isn't rocket science, you guys. This is it's a tabletop campaign that this is based off of. It's an adventure quest. If you've ever read a book, heard a story, seen anything, you'll understand it.
Yeah.
Counts me out.
Sorry, John. There's just certain little, Easter eggs that you don't get then, right? So I think that was the biggest hurdle they had to overcome. So I'm hoping all of the word of mouth here of how great this is, how fun this is. Hi, bud. This guy, there's our sequel.
This guy's great.
But I think the more word of mouth, though, that's been positive about this, that gets around, more people are going to be more excited about a second movie. And even though most of the threads here are tied up, you treat it like a regular D&D campaign. You go on a new quest, you start a new campaign, you roll new characters even potentially. It'd be hilarious to have some of these actors just play entirely new characters like you do when you're playing D&D. Of just like, all right, I'm going to put these dice up. I've retired this character. Now let's have this one over here. There's a lot of potential here for them to mine. So I really, really hope they get to do it.
You did bring up another great obstacle that the film had, which was, the stink of the first one, all that. But yeah, there was probably a lot of the general movie-going audience who thought, well, I've never played D&D, so I probably won't get the movie. What was really encouraging about this movie was all the feedback I heard from audience members who wrote in to me to say, I've never played D&D in my life, and I love this movie.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think there were probably a lot of people that were intimidated about going to see it. Like if you did a Settlers of Catan movie, first of all, everybody will be fighting when they walk out of the theater.
How to lose friends and alienate people. Settlers of Catan.
We have had on the show before, my friend was on the show who's a member of IATSE, Spencer. We had him on when the IATSE negotiations were going on. Some of you will remember that. He's a Hollywood production designer. His wife also works in the industry. Ann and I just went out with them last weekend, and they were the first ones to introduce us to Settlers of Catan. And we were like, oh, hey, when we go away this weekend, should we bring along Settlers of Catan? And they just looked at us like, we can no longer play that game together. It's like, yeah, I think that's a pretty standard story amongst people.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it'll divide houses. It'll divide houses.
I do wish they would have just called it Honor Among Thieves, a Dungeons and Dragons adventure.
Yeah.
Like in small print, Dungeons and Dragons adventure.
I mean, I get it.
That wouldn't have, I'm not saying that would have made millions, but it just would have taken that and flipped it.
Maybe, but what I will say to that is, if their plan, and I don't know that this was their plan, if their plan was to rehabilitate the image of the IP, then
they did it.
You got to put the IP out front and center.
Yeah.
If the goal is to rehabilitate and rebuild the image of the IP, you put that out front and center, even if it means taking a little bit of hit. I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. Guys, question is for you. What do you think of this? Did you enjoy the Dungeons and Dragons movie? According to the box office numbers, a lot of you didn't even see it. Do you think they could do a sequel? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to take a second here and thank a couple of the sponsors of our show here today. Our friends over at Fume and the company that gives you a +4 advantage to ball shaving, Manscaped. Guys, we want to take a minute and thank the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Listen, cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there is a better way to break your habits. And we're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your crazy neighbor or putting Vaseline on your feet under your socks. No, we're talking about our sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? And Fume is an innovative, award-winning device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume's is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. When I first got my Fume, I couldn't believe how beautiful the design was. It's perfectly weighted, and when I breathed it in the first time, I was blown away by just how fresh it tasted. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use the code Campea to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use the code Campea to save an additional 10% off your order today. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Manscaped. Gentlemen, if you didn't already know, it's tax season here in the US, and you know what that means? It means that Manscaped is here to make sure your paperwork is done and your boys downstairs are having fun. Make sure you spend your tax return money on the important things in life, like family, friends, and ball deodorant. Join the 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code Campea. Guys, you know I love all my Manscaped products, from the body wash to the lawnmower, an elegant tool for a more enlightened age. So what better way to invest your tax return than into yourself? Manscaped has the full package from head to toe to make sure you get your money's worth this April. The Performance Package 4.0 is the ultimate bundle you need to reinvent yourself and your confidence. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is the star of the show, offering a precise shave on all your widest hedges, equipped with an LED light so you can navigate in and out of those difficult areas with ease. The Performance Package 4.0 now includes Manscaped's brand new Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose hair trimmer. And don't forget, for all my international friends out there with a little bit of scruff, Manscaped now has beard products. The start of spring also marks the start of Testicular Cancer Awareness Month in April. Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. So get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Campea at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Campea at manscaped.com. Don't just get your money back this year, get your swagger back too with Manscaped. And thank you to our friends at Fume and Manscaped for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you go and check out and support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. If you go down to the description of this video, you'll find links and promo codes for all of today's sponsors. And thank you again to Fume and Manscaped. All right, guys, with that down, let's get to another hotline question here today. And this one has to do with the upcoming new Hunger Games movie and the fact that, well, nobody's talking about it. Check it out.
Hi, John, it's Juan, and glad to see that spring has arrived. So I know there is a Hunger Games prequel coming out later this year, but I have not felt any excitement for it anywhere. Maybe that's just me. Also, I have to question whether it's a good idea to make a Hunger Games movie without Jennifer Lawrence, considering that she was the main star of the previous movies. Do you actually think this Hunger Games movie is going to do well?
All right, thanks a lot for calling that in. Yeah, listen, it's so funny because when I heard this call, I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's right. There's a new Hunger Games movie coming out. A Tale of Snakes and Ladders, or what's it called?
A Song of Snakes and I'd look it up.
Oh my God.
Ballad of Songs and Firestones or something.
A Ballad of Songs and Firestones. What is it called?
Hunger Games 6.
A Song of Birds and Snakes?
Birds and Snakes.
None of us even know.
No,
Look,
I have it.
What is it?
This is like when you don't read the book, so you're like, oh, it's the
It is
Ballad
Hunger
of
Games.
Birds and Snakes.
I have it right here. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Yeah, that's what we said.
The Ballad of
Snakes was
Songbirds and
Ice
Snakes.
and Fire.
Yeah.
Okay, horrible title. Now, I guess this is. Was there also a book, A Ballad of Songbirds and
John Tootin.
Snakes? Did they do a book
Yeah.
on it? Okay, doesn't
I
matter.
don't read, so
The
I
book
don't-
title is terrible too. Awful title. Anyway, that being said, I remember when they first announced that they were going to do another Hunger Games movie, because a lot of us said, well, yeah, I get it. Because listen, the Hunger Games movies, whether they were for you or not, I thought a couple of them were great. A couple of them not. So like the last one was missed the mark. They didn't stick the landing. But I thought a couple of the movies were really quite good. And they made a lot of money for Lionsgate / Summit at the time, that amalgamation. Taylor, did we get some numbers on
Yeah.
some of the
Well.
money that the Hunger Games has made?
Hopefully. So the first Hunger Games, according to my estimations, made 694 million. Then the sequel to that, which I think in order is Catching Fire, was 865 million.
Wow.
But then it started to take a dip with Mockingjay Part 1, 755 million. And then the latest one, Mockingjay Part 2, did 653 million.
So all of them did over $500 million. Like this was an impressive and successful franchise.
Oh, I should have
And-
just brought this image up.
Oh, and
That would
there
have just
we
told
go.
us right there.
Hey.
The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Ladders. So I get it. I totally understood why you would go back to the well. And the idea of the origins of President Snow, even though I like stories that move forward, I would have personally been more interested in find out what happens after the events of Katniss Everglade?
No.
Everdeen?
Everdeen?
There you go.
Okay, I was going to say my next guess was Evergreen.
That's the Florida version.
Katniss Everglade.
Katniss in the Glade.
Hey, we all the same.
All the same
Everglade.
here.
Over here in the Evergreens.
Evergreens.
And so I get it. But here's the thing. Nobody has talked about this. I think Juan sending in this question, this is the first time in forever I've heard, I can recall somebody writing in and asking about it. Now we've got West Side Story star, of course, in Shazam 2 as well. She's going to be, and she's our new Snow White, right? Not Cinderella. She's our new Snow White. So she's some interesting casting. But I have heard no buzz. And this movie is roughly the same distance away as the Marvels. And whether you liked or didn't like the Marvels trailer, a lot of people are talking about it and have been talking about it for months. And there's nobody talking about this movie. And so, was it a mistake for them to try to do another Hunger Games movie without Jennifer Lawrence? Well, I think there's a couple things you got to take into consideration. Number one, I don't think there was any chance they would ever be able to get Jennifer Lawrence back in this. I mean, I've heard some interviews from her, and she's never come out and crap talk the series, obviously, but it's always sounded very definitive that she has now moved on from it. She did, 4 movies with it?
So
She moved on. And good for her. She's an Academy Award winner, multi-time Academy Award nominee. She's now moved on from that stuff. And she's got some really good looking, that new comedy of hers, was it called No Hard Feelings?
I think so, yeah.
Is that the name of it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That looks really funny. I heard about that one. And I thought, well, this sounds stupid. And then I watched the trailer first 5-6 seconds. I'm like, this is stupid. And by the end of it, I had laughed hard and long. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing that, but I don't think they ever could have got her back anyway. I don't know, man. I mean, listen, we are still 7 months out from this movie coming out, which means we haven't even got the first trailer. And you say, John, they put out, no. They put a little title teaser. That means nothing. We'll see what happens when the first trailer comes out. Because the first trailer, I think, will give us a good indication of how warm the general movie-going audience is going to be to this movie. If the first trailer comes out and everybody starts talking about it, okay, maybe there's some potential there. If not, if it stays radio silence, I don't know. Anyway, Chris, the Hunger Games, regardless of what most people do or don't think about, how much they loved it or didn't like it, whatever, there's no doubt it was pulp culturally extremely relevant.
Yeah.
It made a lot of money. I get the idea about why they'd want to go back to that world of Panem. But what do you blame, let's say, the complete lack of any chatter or buzz we hear about this, or do you hear chatter and buzz about it in your circles? What are you thinking?
And that's why I was like, I don't know. It's a song about birds. It's a song about birds.
Birds. So many birds.
It's a song about my husband's greatest fear, birds. I mean, this is me personally, and maybe other people resonate with this. A lot of times prequels for me, I just don't get emotionally invested because I know what's going to happen to this guy. I know he's going to become President Snow. I know he grows up to be a huge evil piece of shit. And while that's interesting to see that trajectory, and we'll learn about the Hanging Tree song apparently in this film. I was doing some research over here. The song that Katniss sings, it's kind of this District 12 anthem. And we hear the origins of that, and it sounds like it's a pretty brutal story. I don't think any of us care. I don't. Maybe that'll change once I see some footage from this. Maybe once they start dropping some trailers and things. But yeah, me seeing two kids laying on the grass, I'm like, okay, that's literally any movie ever. That doesn't make me go, new Hunger Games movie. Excellent.
I thought that was Channing Tatum's slightly malformed clone. I guess not. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, I'm not excited about it. I don't know who is. If you are, tell me more about it. Tell me why you're excited.
You know
about
what that
this
kid
movie.
looks like? He looks like Channing Tatum and Eminem had a baby.
Oh, that's kind of like the guy from the Amazon show.
I think
The Rings of Power. I don't know why I stalled on that.
Oh, he does look a little bit of Rings of Power.
He's
By the way,
got
I'm
that-
not trashing on the guy's looks. He's a better looking dude than me. I'm just saying he kind of looks like
He looks like the little Hemsworth.
Oh, the youngest Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can see that, just like with blonder hair.
I can see that. Yep, I get into that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Nobody seems to be talking about this Hunger Games movie. It's a very successful franchise, not just in the books. The movies did incredibly well on top of that. Why do you think nobody's talking about it? Do you think, hey, you know what? Hunger Games just kind of ended on a little bit of a wind fart? And maybe it's been a little bit too long without Jennifer Lawrence in there. I don't know. There could be a million different reasons. Or maybe you think, yeah, nobody's talking about it now, Campea, but when it comes out, it's going to make $700 million. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about that, jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our final hotline question here today. And this one's calling to ask about, hey, did James Gunn's brother Sean maybe just say more than he was supposed to? Check it out.
Hey, John, this is Alan. I think all of us have probably heavily speculated that Rocket will probably die in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Did you see recently Sean Gunn's comments that he said Volume 3 will be his swan song as Rocket? Considering all the rumors and speculation, and also considering that he's actually the stand-in mocap actor for Rocket on set, could Sean Gunn have just let it slip that Rocket is actually going to die in Volume 3? Thanks. Love to hear your thoughts.
All right, Alan, thanks a lot for calling that in. And listen, I'll tell you what, I've met Sean Gunn a couple of times. He is a totally delightful dude. Really fun guy who, one way or the other, ends up finding his way into James's movies. I believe he did the mocap for Weasel as well.
That's great.
In Suicide Squad. I love Weasel. I don't care what anybody says. I love him. And my wife, of course, knows Sean Gunn because apparently he was a big character in Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never seen
He
it?
was like the goofy.
Yeah, he had like every job in Stars Hollow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go with that. And I've always liked him in the Guardians of the Galaxy. I like Kraglin. Of course, he had a pretty relevant role in the holiday special as well. Like the whole holiday special kind of starts with him as well. I really like him as a character. Well, you may or may not know that he does the mocap for Rocket. Bradley Cooper may do the voice for Rocket, but it's Sean Gunn who is on set in a little green screen suit, you know, kind of shuffling around trying to be Rocket. Well, a lot of people have been speculating, like Alan said, that Rocket dies in this movie. And I think there's a lot of theoretical evidence to back that up. But did Sean Gunn just kind of spill the beans that is indeed what happens? Well, this is what Alan's talking about. This comes to us from the folks over at The Direct, who are quoting another source who said this. Many fans know by now that Kraglin actor Sean Gunn also lends his talents to as the stand-in actor for Rocket Raccoon's motion capture in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. While admitting to Empire magazine that it's a lot harder to play Rocket now that he's getting older, He mentions the upcoming Guardians 3 sequel will be his swan song as Rocket, indicating he will no longer be providing the motion capture work needed to bring the beloved Guardian to life. Okay, so this is the thing. Swan song, this is my swan song as Rocket. That is the one thing that people are grabbing onto and going, he just revealed that Rocket dies in the movie. And listen, to be fair, that is definitely one of the possibilities. It is a possibility that Sean Gunn just basically spilled the beans that Rocket does indeed die, okay? However, while that is definitely a possibility, I want us to look a little further beyond that one line. Because just before that one line, because that's the one line everybody's focusing on, Sean Gunn says this is a swan song as Rocket. And that's all people hear, and they go, oh, well then that settles it. Rocket's dying. And maybe he is. But go back to the beginning of that paragraph. Right? The beginning of that paragraph says this, while admitting to Empire Magazine that it is a lot harder to play Rocket now that he's older. So that has to be taken into consideration. The line, this is my swan song as Rocket, was not spoken in a vacuum. First, the context is set up, hey, listen, it's gotten harder for me to play this role, because it's a lot down on my all fours, doing all this kind of stuff, and I'm getting older now, and it's hard for me to do this. And by the way, this is my swan song as Rocket. While it is totally reasonable to suspect that he did just spill the beans that Rocket may be dying, I think it is equally as possible here that what he was just saying is, I can't play the role anymore. Because this running around on all fours and contorting myself, trying to be the best mocap for the small creatures I can, it's just too difficult for me now. It's not enjoyable. My body's getting older, all that kind of stuff. And then after that, he says, by the way, this is my swan song playing the character. So could it be that he just accidentally revealed that Rocket dies? Could be. But I don't think anybody should run to any conclusions about that, because I think it is equally as a valid perception of this that he was just talking about how I can't play the role anymore. And I think, and considering he's not even the voice of the character, you wouldn't even miss him in it. So I don't know, Chris, you hear about this. I mean, I know you are very, very nervous about the death of Rocket. You are going to be very, very upset. But
Kevin Feige.
You hear what Sean Gunn is saying. What is your instant gut reaction when you read the whole thing? What do you think he's talking about when he says, this is my swan song as Rocket?
Well, when you read the whole statement, it's, mocap is freaking exhausting. He's 48 years old. So by the time they go into production for the next film, he's going to be in his 50s, And
for a character he doesn't even do the voice for.
Exactly. And while he definitely has made a huge impact on what Rocket does, like when you're doing mocap, right, you are the skeletal system for your animators. So many of the bits that we love are all from Sean Gunn. You're making me so mad, I gotta kick grass. That's a Sean Gunn moment. That was improvised. So a lot of the things that we really enjoy about Rocket, his mannerisms and all that, that's thanks to Sean Gunn. And I think he's done a tremendous job here. That being said, you can have another actor come in and do the mocap. Right? Somebody else can don the suit, because he's also probably going to still be Craglin if he's around. He's going to keep showing up as that because that's his face there, right? We're not doing a likeness thing like we do with some mocap. It's simply just the motion capture aspect. We're not doing facial capture for him either, really, that much, aside from like the muscles in here, and then they're animating over that so it doesn't look like him. Looks like a raccoon. But I also still think that they're going to kill my baby. I really do. And it makes me really sad. Because I love that so much of this story is supposed to be about Rocket's origins and saving him and learning more about him and just the atrocities that were done to this poor guy and why he is the way he is, right? But all of the marketing materials just really keep reinforcing to me that Rocket's going to go.
I think it's too on the nose. I just don't believe it. Yeah. I think
it might be a big misdirect.
It could be.
Because also, going back to his line here, notice he didn't say this is Rocket's swan song.
No, he said it's his.
He said it's my swan song as Rocket.
I'm just trying to emotionally prepare myself so when I start ugly crying in the theater, I don't hyperventilate. Just going to be squeezing Taylor being like, he's God.
You know what I just saw in the live chat?
What'd you see?
And this blows my mind.
Oh my God.
What if Rocket turns into a human at the end of this movie? Is that even possible?
How dare.
With what High Evolution is trying to do?
Of course it's possible.
Ooh. Shrek did it.
Yep, Shrek did it. Fiona. Wait, what did Shrek do it, or was it only
Yeah.
Fiona?
No, Shrek did too, because in Shrek 2, he does the fairy godmother spell.
There was a
and then
Shrek
he
2?
becomes a prince for a little bit. Shrek 2. The Empire Strikes Back of the Shrek franchise.
Of the Shrek legacy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do like a Shrek marathon because I don't remember any of this.
Shrek 2 is my favorite of the
Best
franchise.
soundtrack.
So good.
So wonderful.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Obviously, there's a lot of theories out there that Rocket will die in this. And maybe that is indeed what Sean Gunn just kind of slipped. Or maybe it was him just saying, listen, I'm mocapping Weasel is one thing. I can stand up on my feet. Mocapping Rocket is tough at my age. I don't know. What do you think he meant by that? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our final topic here today, shall we? And that one is this. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, as we were just talking about, is coming out here pretty quick. It's less than a month away. It's only a few weeks away at this point. And it is one of the more highly anticipated movies of the year, at least top 5 most anticipated movies of the year for a lot of people. The first 2 films are really good. The first one is fantastic. I thought the second one was quite good, not quite as good as the first. The holiday special was unbelievably great. One of the great lines in all of the MCU, I'll do you one better, why is Gamora? Was uttered by one of the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's coming. People looking forward to it. But the question is, in a current time window where particularly DC films, but really comic book films as a whole, right now in this specific window of time, are a little underperforming. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania failed to even make $500 million. Which, I mean, a lot of movies would kill. A lot of directors would kill to have their movies make as much money as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania did. But for the MCU, that is way down low on the scale. Of course, Black Adam couldn't crack 400
Had
million.
to do it.
Shazam 2, which I quite like. So I'm not bashing on Shazam 2. I quite like the movie. But that movie ain't even going to make $140 million.
One Black Adam.
Excuse me? That movie's not even going to make $140 million. That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so it is this context. And even going back a little bit, you got Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Well, hey, I don't think it cracked 900 million, but it got into the 800 millions, if I'm not mistaken. And that's big. But even that was a significant drop from the first Black Panther. But of course, the first Black Panther did not have its star, nor did it have its main character. So that goes a long way to that. But still, this is the context that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to be coming out. Can it catch the biggest opening weekend of the year right now, which is currently held by the Super Mario Brothers at 146 million? Well, according to Box Office Pro, they have now put out their projections. Now, these are early projections, but Box Office Pro right now is projecting that Guardians 3, the range right now remember, as we get closer to the release date, this range will narrow. But right now, Box Office Pro is projecting that Guardians 3 will make anywhere between $125 and $155 million opening weekend. Now, as we look at the year so far, these are the biggest opening weekends that we've had this year. Scream 6 opened with a franchise record of 44 million. Creed 3 opened with its franchise record of 58 million. John Wick 4 opened with its franchise record of 73 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania cracked the $100 million opening, making $106 million. And the current biggest opening weekend of the year belongs to Super Mario Brothers at $146 million. That's the number to catch for Guardians. Now, look, let me be very, very clear here. If Guardians of the Galaxy, say, makes $135 million opening weekend, there are already people who are ready to come out. They're sharpening up their knives, getting ready to come out and say, oh, it's a big failure because it didn't catch Mario Brothers. Guess what? Most movies this year are not going to catch Mario Brothers. Most won't. If they can make $135 million opening weekend, coming off of an Ant-Man and the Wasp that only made 106, that's a win. You take that and could be a great start. If it has legs and all that kind of stuff, it'll do just fine. But with this range of 125 to 155 million, that is saying that right now, some analysts, particularly the ones at Box Office Pro, say right now at the upper end, Guardians 3 could very well pass Mario Brothers to be the biggest opening of the year. Now, can it catch its overall box office number? We'll see how big Mario gets and how big Guardians can go. but that'll be interesting. Now, one of the other things that the analysts are quick to point out is that the Guardians 3 marketing campaign hasn't even really revved up yet. They've dropped a couple of trailers, yes, but that glut MCU marketing machine has not really put their foot down onto the floor yet. And that is coming in the next week or two. And once that comes, they're quick to point out that we are going to readjust and, specify our projections. But at this point, the low end will make it the second biggest opening of the year so far. The high end will make it the biggest opening weekend so far. Chris, from what you've seen out there right now with the trailers, the reactions we hear from people, the general buzz about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, however hot or however cold, whatever, do you think this is a pretty accurate number right now for still being a number of weeks out, that 125, 155? And where do you see it maybe kind of falling?
I don't. I feel like people are really excited about this.
So you think this is low?
I think this is low. I mean, I remember watching the Super Bowl and everyone just telling each other to shut the hell up when the ad came on. And Deadline posted about it. We talked about it on the show, how that trailer was breaking records, making 100 million views in less than 24 hours, people blowing up that trailer. Every time I talk to people about this, they are so excited. They are worried about the cast. They're speculating about what's going to happen in this. They're really, really looking forward to where this story is going, since this is the conclusion of these Guardians, no matter how that shakes out, right? If it's deaths for them sticking.
Ray, did you make that?
No.
Okay.
That's perfect. I love it. But I just feel like people are much more excited about this one than other comic book fare that I have heard about this year. People seem really, really jazzed about it. They love these characters. The soundtrack's always great. It's a story with a lot of heart. And while I know the sequel didn't fire on all cylinders for everybody, I know so many people who still really enjoyed that one and just love these characters and their story so much that I really think it's going to do better than this.
I think this range is fairly accurate. I get everything you just said is 100% true. 100% true.
Oh, thank you.
I'm also just kind of balancing that against the stuff we talked about before, what's currently happening in the space. So I'm thinking, my guess is it will pass Mario Brothers 146. Now, look, just because I know there are probably some people saying, wait a minute, I thought it made like 177. The 177 represented its 5-day opening, not its official opening weekend. The official opening weekend number for Mario Brothers was 146. So that's the numbers that Guardians is going to be aiming to pass. I think it's going to come in around the $150 million mark. Now, some people will point out, well, John, the early advanced ticket sales went up and it only sold about as much in the early advanced ticket sales as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Granted, but I've been saying for years, I really don't think that means anything. Because here's the thing. People started bringing that up to me a week after the tickets went on sale. I didn't even know the tickets for it went on sale. And I think a lot of people don't even know the tickets went on sale for it. I think this is going to be big. I do think it'll pass Mario. I'm not necessarily saying that it'll make more money than Mario did overall when it all is said and done. But I do think it will just pass Mario Brothers. I think it'll come in that $150 million range and just pass Mario. Actually, Ray, can you put up a poll? Let's put up a poll. Will Guardians 3 pass Mario Brothers opening weekend? Will Guardians 3 opening weekend pass Super Mario Brothers opening weekend? Yes or no? I'd be really curious to know what you guys at home think about that. So check it out. If you're watching live right now, look into the chat. Ray's just putting that together. Should pop up in a minute. Go ahead and register your vote. We'll come back to that and see what the results are in just a little bit. So guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The long-term projection right now is 125 to 155. That will get narrowed as we get closer. Do you think that Guardians 3 is going to have enough steam going into its opening weekend to pass that $146 million that Super Mario Brothers made? Yes or no? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, and speaking of Rocket, let's move on and hear from a couple of more sponsors of today's John Campea Show, our friends at Rocket Money, and of course, my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Rocket Money. The average person has around 12 paid subscriptions. Think about that. If you think you're only subscribed to a handful of services, you might want to double check. With Rocket Money, you can quickly identify and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want and don't even use. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as the click of a button. My wife Ann and I moved out of Burbank 2 years ago, and one of the first things I discovered when I loaded up Rocket Money was that I was still paying for a gym membership I haven't even been to in Burbank in 2 years. So stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. rocketmoney.com/Campea. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Rocket Money and, of course, my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile, for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that all down, hey, let's go over what we got. We put up the poll asking if you guys think that if you think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will pass the opening weekend number that Super Mario Brothers did. What do we got there? What's our numbers right now?
650 votes, 652 going up, 63 to 37%, 64-36, yeah.
For what?
Yes, in favor of Guardians.
So 64% of the people think that Guardians of the Galaxy will get a bigger opening weekend.
Almost
so they're siding with Chris on this. All right. Guys, let's now move over and take your questions that you guys have been sending in. Of course, you can send in your questions anytime, 24/7, middle of the night, middle of the afternoon, doesn't matter. Send them in to our tip link at streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip, and you will hear them if we deem the questions to be appropriate to read on the show. You'll hear them on this show or a quickly upcoming one. So, Chris, what do we got up first?
From Tim Platt. John, it happened.
Whoa.
The Emperor is dead. Sauron is defeated. The Dark Lord is no more. The commanders have been sold, and my long nightmare of Dan Snyder is over. Yo, mother effing nub.
Now, is it okay? So, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you don't, Dan Snyder is the hated owner of the Washington, formerly known as the Washington Redskins, now the Washington Commanders. Everybody hates him. He's the worst, maybe the worst owner in the history of the league. And I know they are getting close. Now, I don't know that it's official. Is it official that the team, I know Jeff Bezos, the Amazon guy, I know he was looking at buying them, but then he backed out. So I know they're getting close.
You want more penis rockets.
That's exactly what, he would be perfect for Washington.
Yeah.
So, here's hoping he'll move on. All right, what's next?
From James. Both Dune and Marvels will both do fine with the busy Thanksgiving weekend. I think Marvels will do better, though, since it'll have more families with young kids going to Marvels, and it will most likely be shorter, which will lead to more showings. You know,
everything you just said there is completely true. I completely believe that both Dune and the Marvels will do fine. They'll both do business, no doubt. It's just a matter about which ones will do better than the other. And I said that I believe Dune will actually do better than the Marvels. But that being said, you do raise some great points, and that others have mentioned to me as well. The fact that people can take their family, not a lot of kids being brought to see Dune. Not one that's going to keep little Timmy super engaged in the Dune movie. So you got the family situation there, you got the Marvel situation there. Very well. I will stick right now with my call that I think Dune will end up doing a little bit better, but I totally acknowledge that there's a very good chance it'll be the Marvels.
I also think because you have, Taylor looked it up yesterday, that it was like a 62% drop in the second weekend for Dune. And so there's going to be an ebb and flow. I think you're right. It's going to take from Marvels, but because there's that 62 drop, I don't think it's going to take. It's not. There's going to be a little
that drop though is not in a vacuum. That drop is in an environment where number one, there was still a pandemic issue going on, but most importantly, it was on HBO Max. People could have just watched it on HBO Max. So what you had was
day and day.
Yeah, those people who aren't going out just to see it first weekend, or the people just going to stay at home and watch it on HBO because that's where it was. So I mean that kind of stung it in the ass a lot. So I think with that not being the case this time, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you it sounded a lot better in IMAX than it did at home. So
really?
I think for Dune, oh man, people go to the theaters. If they do day and date again, see it at theaters. It
sounded
better.
so. I did see it in IMAX as well. It sounded so good. All right, what's next?
From Anonymous, Miguel Sapochnik for Harry Potter showrunner. He's got history with HBO and adapting novels.
And working in that fantasy realm. Of course, he was a Game of Thrones guy. He was one of the showrunners for House of the Dragon season 1. He will not be back for season 2. That's not a bad choice. You're right. He's in the house right now. He's in HBO, the HBO family. He's got experience with the novel adaptations. He got experience with the fantasy genre. That's not a bad one. I like that pick. That's a pretty good pick. All right, what's next?
From Aaron Lewis, sending in a $20 tip.
Thank you, Aaron.
Hey, John and crew. I've been listening to the show every day for the past 6 months. I love the show so much that you have inspired me to start my own YouTube channel.
Oh, that's great.
With my best friend. Thank you for all the good you guys do for the movie-going community.
Listen, I've said for a very, very long time, all film fans should create their own blog, podcast, or YouTube channel. Even if you only get 10 people reading it, listening to it, or watching it, you are still adding to the film fan community experience. And you get to engage more with the object of your fandom. You're getting an excuse to hang out more with talking about movies and all that kind of stuff. I just think it's a great exercise for any film fan, and I'm super glad that you did that. All right, what's next?
From Amin, since you're not doing after shows anymore, what's the minimum time of length we have to wait after an episode airs before we can send in spoiler questions?
16 minutes.
1 day. 1 day. I have always considered, a lot of people disagree with me on that, and that's fine. I respect that, but this has always been my thing. Television is different than the movies. The movies, there's a lot of planning, coordination, money that has to be spent to get out, because it's not, if a movie's 90 minutes long, it's not a 90-minute commitment. It's a commitment, especially if you have families getting babysitting, planning your schedule, setting time aside, driving to the movie theater, getting there, watching it, driving. I mean, it's a much, much bigger deal. Television, it's openly, publicly available. You can just sit down, turn it on, and watch. Now, I've had debates with people who have said to me, you should give as much leeway to a TV show as you do to movies. But that, to me, that's nonsense. Because guess what? It's still entertainment. I'm not saying it's apples to apples, but it's still entertainment. When the Toronto Maple Leafs play last night, guess what happens? It was available on TV. Anybody could have watched it if they wanted. ESPN doesn't go, now, we can't tell you the score of the game because it might spoil it for people who didn't have a chance to watch the game yet. No, if you're a sports fan, you're just going to have to know that it was on TV. The world's going to talk about it. And if you don't want to know what the score was for the game last night, then that is your responsibility to turn off your phone and go la, 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 and try to avoid anything. That's on you. It's not on everybody else to not talk about it. I kind of feel the same way about television shows. Once it airs, once it's out there, once it's available, I kind of feel like it's open season that people should be able to talk about it. And if you don't want to hear what happened on TV, then it's your responsibility to avoid it, not other people's responsibility to help you avoid it. So that's why I see there being a bit, and again, I get it. There's some arguments to be made against that. There are different points of view on it, but that's always kind of been mine. All right, what's next?
From Anonymous, seeing Hamilton this weekend in Toronto.
Nice.
It'll be my second time. First time was in the UK a few years ago when I was visiting. When do you think we'll get a Hamilton movie? Well, you kind of do. It's been 8 years since the Broadway premiere and 3 years since the Disney Plus release.
Has it been 3 years since the Disney Plus release? Wow, I would have said like a year and a half ago.
I think that happened around right in 2020 with
Yeah.
the pandemic.
Yeah.
And
It
everything.
was mid-pandemic.
Listen, Hamilton is one of those shows that I never believed for a second, 'cause it was pop. I've never seen a Broadway show more than Cats, more than anything else, to have as big of a pop cultural presence as Hamilton did when it came out. And when I went to go see it, I was expecting it to be good, but there was no way it could live up to the hype. It lives up to the hype. I think it's my second favorite stage show I've ever seen, only behind Les Mis, which I've seen like 4 times. I've seen Hamilton like 3 times now. It's fantastic. And I was always the kind of guy, I always said, yeah, you got to make a movie, got to make a movie, got to make a movie. But you know what? After I watched what Disney Plus did with just filming the stage performance, I don't think that can be topped.
Yeah.
I don't, the music is such an important part of it. Now, you could do what they did with, who was it, Liam Neeson's Les Mis, where they just didn't do the music from it. It was just, they just did the story of it.
That was a story because it was based on the novel, not the play.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know that would be as interesting
No.
without the music. And if you're going to have the music, just watch the film stage show. So look, they will do it because money. But I think if you really want the Hamilton experience, number one, you go see it when it's playing somewhere near you.
Yeah.
After that, watch the Disney Plus one. It's really quite good. I just don't know how a movie tops it. All right, good question though. All right, what's next?
I just got a notification. I got excited. I'm seeing the Batman tomorrow with the live orchestra. I totally forgot.
Ooh, is that at where is it?
That's at the Dolby Theater where they do the Oscars.
Oh.
Ooh.
I'm jumping on Vivid Tickets. I'm jumping on Vivid Tickets to
Gotta
see if
do
I
it,
can
man.
get a passes to that. All right, what's next?
From Anonymous, are you guys seeing this season of Picard? I'll be the madman here, just say it. It's overtaken Last of Us, Ted Lasso, and Poker Face as the best show of the year for me. Wow. This is from someone who despised season 2 and thought season 1 was just okay. Bring on the filthy. Rob? Rob, is that you?
It's good. I'm enjoying Picard season 3. It's good. I put it kind of on the same level as season 1, a little bit better than season 1. Definitely better than season 2, because season 2 wasn't it. This is a good Star Trek show. I personally don't think it's anywhere near the level of Last of Us, near the level of an Andor or a Succession or a Ted Lasso or a Shrinking. I don't think it's that. I don't even think it's the best relatively recent Star Trek thing. I still think Strange New Worlds is a better show than Picard season 3. I think Strange New World is the best thing that they've got out right now. But I, as a fan of season 1 of Picard, and who was kind of let down by season 2, they've done a really good job with this season. And it just kind of felt like the member berries and the nostalgia factor of going back to Star Trek The Next Generation in a way that the first 2 seasons of Picard just didn't do, have been really enjoyable. And on top of all that, they've got a really good mystery going on. And I love it when a show can actually put in there a good mystery. And you know, what's causing the voices? What is Jack's connection? Who's behind what's going on with the changelings? Like all that kind of stuff is really good mystery and good character development. They've just done a really, really good job with it, and I'm enjoying it. All right, what's next?
From Optimus Prime Rib, not everyone can separate the art from the artist, but what are your thoughts on people who can't do so and think less of people who are able to do so? As if we're a moral failing or a lack of honor for not being willing to make the sacrifice.
That is always going to be a huge question amongst fans, is the separation of the artist from the art. And it's different every single time. Some people can, some people can't. I honestly do not believe there is a singular right answer to that. I just don't. A good example of this was, I can't remember, I was working at AMC at the time. And this was the first time I got into a screaming match with my bosses at AMC, because I can't remember the name of it. It was like World Championship. There was some like World Championship dance-off movie. It was a narrative movie, and Chris Brown was in it. And it was not long after he hospitalized a woman for beating her in the face. And as a big brother with a couple of sisters, I'm like, I'm not promoting this movie. I'm not promoting this movie. And AMC was like, it's a movie playing in our theaters. Yes, you are. To which I said, then go find somebody else to run this operation, because I ain't. And we played a little bit of chicken. It's so, and that's how I felt about that. But I don't believe that that is a hard and fast rule. If somebody who's involved in making a movie isn't such a nice person, you should skip the movie. Well, guess what? You're never going to watch a movie for your entire life. Somebody involved with your favorite movie and somebody involved with your favorite TV show has done bad things. And so where do you draw the line? And I honestly don't know. Listen, Russell Crowe is probably my favorite actor in the world. He's done some pretty dickish things. He has. As far as I know, he's never beat up a woman to the point that she had to be hospitalized.
Stay away from landlines.
Yeah, if you know what Jonathan just referenced to, good on you, if you understand that reference. And then again, then there's the whole Ezra stuff, right? A lot of people are like, well, John, how can you, like, you are so against all the stuff that Ezra did, and you're saying that they need to deal with Ezra and all that kind of stuff, and yet you're still going to go see Flash. Well, yeah, because for me, two things. They shot the movie before they knew about all the stuff that Ezra was doing. And two, this is not Ezra's movie. This is Andy Muschietti's movie.
And Michael Keaton's, because it's Batman Flashpoint.
And Michael Keaton's, because it is a Michael Keaton movie. Yeah. But again, even then, I don't make a rule. I think it's so nebulous and different. Look, I think anybody can feel the way they want to. If they are going to be so distracted from a movie because somebody they see on screen or somebody they know who wrote this movie or somebody they know who directed this movie has done something really horrible in their eyes, and it's just going to straight up distract them and prevent them from being able to enjoy the movie, well, then the right thing for them is to not watch that movie.
Yeah.
If you are somebody that you look up on screen and you don't see Ezra Miller, you see Barry Allen, and that works for you, then that works for you. I just don't think there is any one singular hard and fast rule to be applied here. I think different people are going to approach it in different ways. The one thing I will say is that, like you're pointing out, if you don't look at it their way, then they look down on you. Well, fuck them. I don't care about those people. But it's a nebulous thing, and we shouldn't think that there's one rule to it. Chris, you got a thought on that?
Yeah, Ray and I actually had a really great conversation about this off camera one day of just, you guys have heard me say it on here, I'm a big vote with your dollar kind of person. Yeah. And so there are certain things that I don't go out and buy, or I'll switch providers, or I'll do whatever if I don't agree with the person, policies, etc. of something. But that's me. Now, if someone then goes on to like defend someone's abhorrent behavior, yeah, then I'm going to have a conversation of, have you looked up what they said and what they did? Maybe take a peek at that and then come back to me and let's have a talk about that. But if somebody, wants to get the new Harry Potter game, right? That's not something for me. That's not something I want to do, just because I don't really want to give J.K. Rowling my money personally. But if you go get it, I'm not going to tell you that you're a horrible person, frankly. That's just something that I'm not going to do. I don't know if, you feel the same way about things. I just wouldn't support that person. I wouldn't do that stuff, but it doesn't make you a lesser person to me unless you support verbally and in your actions also some of the horrible things that have been said, right? As long as you're a good person, I feel like that kind of outweighs it. For me personally, I also just try to do the extra thing that I think is good of, okay, well then I'm not going to support that thing because I don't believe in that creator or this thing, and it makes me feel a little better about it. If that's not your cup of tea though, hey, live and let live.
All right. What's next?
From Mo. With seeing Brendel Hux in The Mandalorian and assuming we'll eventually see the birth of the First Order, do you think we will ever see Grand Admiral Rey Sloane in something live action, as she was a key figure in creating the First Order? I loved that we saw him in there.
Yeah.
Oh!
Rey Sloane, like for many of you who didn't read the novels and stuff like that, you're wondering, who the hell is Rey Sloane? She is a really interesting character that surprisingly popped up in a number of the novels. And I always really like that. And she's one of these morally ambiguous kind of characters. Like, you're never really 100% sure whether you'd consider her a good person or a bad person. Really, I don't know that we'll meet Ray Sloan. I don't know that we will, because even people who have not read the Star Wars novels, they probably heard others talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn, or they've heard things about certain different. I don't know that a lot of people have ever heard of Ray Sloan, but I'd get a kick out of it if they did. All right, what's next?
From Anonymous, saw Aaron. It was very good.
Yeah.
My second favorite movie of the year behind John Wick 4. Talking to my son, explaining that Jordan might be one of the most influential people ever to ever live, what he did for the NBA and his impact on the world and sports in general.
Yeah, listen, Michael Air Jordan, maybe the greatest basketball player of all time, was certainly a global phenomenon. Like, everybody knew who Michael Jordan was. You didn't have to be a basketball fan. He could walk into a small town square in Prague and everybody would know who Michael Jordan was. Now, I will go a little bit further and say this, though. I don't think Michael Jordan was as influential on the NBA or as responsible for the resurgence and growth of the NBA as the immediate generation right before him. And Ray, I'd like to know your thoughts on this. But I think what saved the NBA was Magic and Larry. Like, Magic and Larry was the thing that kind of propped up, and a lot of people think saved the NBA. And it was that NBA that was able to actually emerge out of this, one of the greatest two athlete rivalries ever in the history of sport, Larry and Magic. It was that NBA created by that then Michael Jordan was able to come in and elevate himself to the heights that he did. But you're right. He's one of the most recognizable, important sports figures of all time. No doubt. All right. What's next?
From TJ Perry, wish we could consult Aaron on this one. What's it like for an actor when they've realized the movie they're in is a steaming pile of you-know-what? With most jobs, you can say, well, I did my part. But when your face represents the film, is it different?
I have spoken to Aaron about this. And Aaron has such a great professional attitude about it. Now, I won't say which project we're going to talk, which project we were talking about. But Aaron's attitude is very, very professional. Look, if you're hired to go into a restaurant and paint the walls and the restaurant sucks, but everybody knows that the walls were painted beautifully. The decor was great. It felt, the ambiance was great. The color choices were wonderful. That's all you can do. That's all you can control, is you do your job and you do it well. If it turns out to be shitty, then the thing you're working, whatever, it turns out to be shitty. What did you do with your limited influence? Chris, I'm sure you've never appeared in anything other than Absolute Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Theoretically speaking,
yeah.
if something you did work on ended up being bad, how do you as a creator, as a performer, look at that?
Oh, have fun with my IMDb, you guys. Usually it is. Most acting, I try to take kind of a swimming approach to it. When you're swimming, right, your only goal is to beat your own time. You're not caring about the other things in the other lanes, right? It's just about that. So then you can just look to, did I do what I needed to do? Was my performance all right? What could I have improved on? What could have I done to at least make my role in this as great as it could be to support the writers, directors, and the entire creative team behind this? And sometimes some of those things are completely out of your control too. You end up with a weird edit, or you end up on the cutting floor, or some other things happen. So then at the end of the day, hopefully you got paid well and made some new friends. We'll always have the memories and the stench of a film.
All right, what's next?
From Anonymous, sending in a $20 tip. Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw an interview with Russell Crowe where he was talking about Man of Steel and how he wished they'd done a Man of Steel prequel about Jor-El and Zod. I loved the opening 20 minutes on Krypton and would happily watch a whole movie with the two of them.
Listen, Russell Crowe, my favorite actor. Man of Steel, one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. I love the opening 20 minutes on Krypton and the different look about the end of Krypton and all that kind of stuff. I'm not interested in prequels. Unless you're going to put huge amounts of time between the events of the current stuff we have and whatever. But I'm look, and it's not that I have zero interest in prequels. I am much more interested in stories moving forward. So I have to tell you, if James Gunn were to call me and say, hey, we're thinking about doing a Zod Jor-El prequel, what do you think? I would ask, do you got anything else that you could do instead? I wouldn't be personally down for it all that much, but hey, if they made it and they were going to put it out, I would definitely go to see it for sure. But I would rather them make something else. All right, what's next?
From Antagonistic Anonymous, Jeff Snyder been on a scoop streak with Deadline starting to cite him. His new exclusive is that Galactus is the villain in Fantastic Four. To face such a big threat, the team has to be seasoned beyond Origin, so where has Fantastic Four been? And thoughts on Galactus in the first Fantastic Four film?
I would not take that as fact. Now, what is fact, what I can tell you for sure, knowing Jeff Snyder's ethics, I can tell you for fact he did hear that. That if Jeff Snyder reports that he has heard that this, and this, then 100% that's what he heard. But sometimes in this business, and I can attest to this personally, we hear things from pretty reliable sources that do not always pan out. So I am not saying Galactus will not be in Fantastic Four. I'm not saying that. But I'm also saying don't take it as fact quite yet. Jeff definitely heard that, but the source he got it from may or may not be correct on that. So I just say put that there. The question about where has Fantastic Four been all this time in the MCU has been a dominant question ever since they announced they were going to do a Fantastic Four. Because I believe Kevin Feige made it clear this isn't going to be an origin story. It's like, okay, so where have they been? When New York is getting attacked by an alien invasion, where were they? When half of the population was snapped away, where was the Fantastic Four or any remaining members of them?
With the X-Men and all supernatural creatures.
That's the thing. Okay, Blade's around. Okay, that means there have been vampires. Where have vampires been? Where have the mutants been? You know, these where have they been questions are not just relevant to Fantastic Four, and it is a big question about Fantastic Four, but it's also a big question for a lot of stuff. And listen, I'm sure we're going to get into those answers and that, and hopefully we'll find out soon. I'm looking forward to it, though. All right, what's next?
From Henri Mertens, my ultimate Harry Potter fan casting. John Noble as Dumbledore, Russell Crowe as Hagrid, Tom Hiddleston as Malfoy, Joel Edgerton as Sirius Black, Sacha Baron Cohen as Snape, James McAvoy as Remus Lupin, Colin Firth as Mad-Eyed Moody, Daniel Craig as Gilderoy Lockhart.
Okay, keep that up for a second. Sacha Baron Cohen as Snape. I love that. And not that there aren't a couple of really good picks on there. For sure, there are a couple
So is this
of really
when they're
good.
adults? Because I'm confused as hell then.
Yeah, these are for the adult characters.
Yeah, these are adult characters.
gotcha.
Because in Harry Potter, these are all adult characters.
Like, this is, the
Like
academic staff.
Malfoy, not the little Malfoy, the father.
Lucius.
Yeah,
Lucius
Malfoy.
Okay.
Colin Firth as Mad-Eye Moody is a wild pick.
I thought he was going to, at first I thought he was going to say Colin Farrell. Because, of course, Mad-Eye Moody was played by Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson, who has worked on all of his best stuff with Colin Farrell.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of would be a cool little passing of the baton there. But Sacha Baron Cohen as Snape. By the way, John, bring the name up again.
John Noble?
John Noble. John Noble, of course, the steward of Gondor. Sing me a song, Master Hobbit. Him playing Dumbledore, that's not a bad one either. But and then of course, Tom Hiddleston is Malfoy, maybe. Joel Edgerton is Sirius Black. That's a pretty cool one. But it's that I am not going to be able to get Sacha Baron Cohen as Snape out of my head.
That's fun.
That's a great, because if you and don't think Sacha Baron Cohen is just freaking Borat.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Go watch Trial of Chicago 7. He got an Oscar nomination for that. Go watch him in that. He's actually a really, really good actor to the point that even Martin Scorsese likes working with him. Him as Snape. Okay, I see you. All right, what's next?
From Ghostface999, hey John and crew, I saw Mario last night and I can say the movie was extremely simple. Fun, but very, very basic. Does this confirm that there is such a thing as movie makers making movies for the fans and not the critics?
No, listen, at the end of the day, like we were just talking about Dungeons and Dragons, right? You make a great movie, everybody will love it. Dungeons and Dragons, 91% critics, 93% audience. Top Gun Maverick, same thing. Usually all the big movies, all the great movies, it's usually both audiences and critics. The vast majority of the time, and this is a statistical fact. I think it was The Wrap that did the article on it, but it's a statistical fact. The vast, and whenever you hear somebody say, the critics in the audience never feel the same.
That's not
okay,
true.
I'll never listen to you. That's a good sign of that, because it's a statistical fact that the vast majority of the time, the audience rating and critics ratings are in the same quarter, meaning they're within 25% of each other. So that is the vast majority of the time. And when you talk about the biggest, most beloved movies, it's audiences and critics and stuff like that, right? You are right. Listen, the Super Mario Brothers movie, I had a great time of it. I gave it a very positive review. I'm one of the thumbs up guys. But you're right, it's a very simple movie. But they just recognized that what they were going for in there, and this can work. And by the way, don't forget, the majority of the critics like the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like the way some people talk is like, the critics hated the Super Mario Brothers movie. No, the majority of the critics liked it. A thin majority, but the majority nonetheless.
Well, the critics and fans alike, too, have had this kind of same through line, too, of, it's fun. It's fun. Have you played a Mario game? It ain't too deep usually.
That's literally to my point, because I'm assuming Ghostface is not a critic, yet they just said there's no story. So you agree with the critics.
Yeah, and I think most fans do.
And then you're kind of inferring that, like, oh, fans or audiences don't want story, they just want fun, and that's not true either. So
no, we love it when you give us both.
Yeah.
When you give us both, and that's when you create a special movie. Like that's when you create these movies that like where you get critics and the audiences both in the 90s. That's when you get your John Wick 4s. That's when you get these movie-going experiences that everybody agree that it's great. So yeah, listen, and I think they made the best movie they can. And they made a movie that the subject matter alone made a lot of people very interested in it. And I believe an enjoyable time at the theater. And yeah, that's what I think about that. All right, what's next?
From TAC, most Harry Potter book fans are elated at the news of the remake series. David Yates butchered the last 3 books by focusing on the wrong aspects and making changes to scenes that destroyed their thematic importance. This is a chance to see them done justice. I don't know if that's all fans, bud.
I feel like that's just you.
Yeah, but again, this goes back to the thing that everybody thinks they speak for the fans. Because I know a number of fans of the books that are not elated about this new thing. I think it's definitely a worthwhile thing to try. I think the move to do a series based on the books is definitely a worthwhile thing to try. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think it's worth trying. But yeah, all fans think they speak for the fans, when in reality, we don't. I don't speak for all the fans. You don't speak for all the fans. Maybe you and your buddies all feel one way, but that doesn't mean the majority of other people do. That being said, I agree with the potential of what you just said, because the people I know who are fans of the books, one of the things that they've spoken in optimism is that there are a number of elements and themes in the books that the movies never touched. Things they overlooked, things they didn't take advantage of. You know, they went down a certain way when maybe they zigged maybe when they should have zagged. And so I think that is true. And I think that's why I think there's potential here. Again, will the audiences want to watch it? Who knows? But the potential's there. All right, what's next?
From Clay Woodley, with Mario likely to cross the $1 billion mark, the only other movies that I can see joining the $1 billion club are Guardians 3, Fast 10, and Mission Impossible. The Flash, Indiana Jones, The Marvels, and Aquaman, I think, have an outside chance.
I have a very, listen, if The Flash is as great as it is, as we're hearing it is, even then I don't think it can cross $1 billion. Now, I reserve the right to change that after I see it for myself in a week and a half. Then I may or may not change my mind, but just given the state of DC movies right now, I don't know that the audiences want to rush out to see them. Mission Impossible, I don't think any Mission Impossible movies ever made $1 billion. So I think it's going to be a big hit. $1 billion? Oh, yeah, I'll go with you on that outside chance. I'll go with you on the outside chance. Guardians, also, I don't think that's a lock that makes $1 billion, but I think it's got a shot. Fast 10 has a shot. Yeah, all these ones do. And by the way, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Mario Brothers hits $1 billion either. Because a lot of people say, but it hasn't even opened in Japan yet. Yeah, but Japan is a much smaller market than, say, the North American market is. It is where Mario is super popular. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Mario makes $1 billion. It very well could. I'm just saying it's not a foregone conclusion that it does. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how all this evolves. But we got some exciting movies coming.
Even with indie. I mean, it could be like, oh, it's so great, it's blowing up. Or people could be like, it wasn't that great.
I think indie has a better chance of hitting $1 billion than a lot of people are giving it credit for. Again, everything will depend on whether it's great or not. Everything will depend on that. But all other things being equal, I think people are sleeping on Indiana Jones 5. All right, what's next?
As long as they don't sleep in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Ray.
Or with.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Clay Woodley. It's hard to believe that X-Men 2 will turn 20 years old on May 2nd. How dare you? I was 8 when it came out.
How dare you?
And I still think to this day it still holds up and is one of the best comic book movies ever made.
Brian Cox is the antagonist in X-Men 2. I am in complete agreement with you. X-Men 2 is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. It's one of those rare feats where a sequel actually exceeded the original.
Right.
I love that movie. And you're 100% right. It's a movie that stands up today. I mean, some of the effects are a little questionable now, sure. But as a movie, as a story, as a narrative, it holds up today. It is one of the greatest ones ever made. That's why, this debate comes up a lot, but the first X-Men movie and then building on that, the second X-Men movie are the films that are responsible for the golden age of comic book movies that got ushered in. Now, some people will argue and say, well, the Blade movies came first. Yes, they did, but they did not have the impact that the X-Men movies did.
A lot of people didn't know that was a comic movie.
Well, a lot of people didn't know that, but the key thing for me is, I keep forgetting the producer's name. He was the producer on not Matt Reeves's, Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. He's been a producer on a lot of the DC stuff, but there have been other producers. I'm forgetting, if I read his name right now, I could tell you what it was. But when he came out and said, and this is what a lot of producers will tell you, and studio people tell you, when they watched X-Men, that first X-Men movie, it wasn't when Blade did it. It was when X-Men did it. That's when Hollywood executives and producers looked and said, oh, that's what we can do with comic book movies. We can do that? A comic book movie that opens in a German concentration camp with a Jewish family being torn apart? Unheard of in what was considered to be what a comic book movie is at the time. And producers and Hollywood executives have spoken about how that was the moment to them that they started to realize or expanded their understanding about what you could do with comic book movies. Because without that X-Men movie, Infinity War doesn't happen. The snap, losing half of humanity, all that doesn't happen without that first X-Men movie. And the second X-Men movie built on that. And I have a deep, deep love for X-Men 2. And that's why Brian Cox will always be Stryker to me. More than he is Logan Roy. He is, to me, he will always be Stryker. All right.
He's the guy who tells me to get McDonald's.
And what a crime X-Men 3 was. To follow up on the promise of X2, the way it ended, how we all thought X3 was just going to be...
It was going to be amazing.
And then it was just like...
By the way,
it was what it was.
There are a few cool things in X-Men 3.
Yeah.
Like that scene was one of the greatest scenes when Magneto rips up the bridge and is moving all of his mutants across the... Like, I remember at the time being in theaters, like, okay, this movie hasn't been great so far, but oh my God, look at what Magneto's doing. And another good thing about that movie, when Beast actually goes into action, the Kelsey Grammer Beast... Mm-hmm. I remember when they were doing that, I'm like, this is the perfect way to show Hank McCoy in action. And when he starts getting into the fight scenes, I'm like, so yeah, huge step down, yes, but I still contend there were a few little gold nuggets, a few moments in that movie that were still pretty good. All right, what's next?
From Jake G. Just saw Return of the King extended version in theaters. I don't know about you, but I can't think of a better movie scene than the charge of the Rohirrim during the Minas Tirith battle.
It's bone shaking. Listen, I could go on. We could wax poetic all day about the brilliance of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Again, no movie in history has ever won more Academy Awards than Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. It won 11. It was nominated for 11 and won 11. It swept. No other film has ever done that. Only two other films in history have won 11 Academy Awards, but none of them swept 11 for 11. And I don't think any film since Lord of the Rings: Return of the King has ever gotten 11 Academy Award nominations. That's it. And I don't know if another one ever will. It's just such a triumph in so many levels. All right, what's next?
From Anonymous. Hey, John and crew, how are you today?
I'm great.
I was just wondering if you had a chance to watch the trailers for Talk to Me and The Last Voyage of the Demeters, and what are your thoughts? Oh, I think Talk to Me could be this year's surprise horror hit, like Malevolent and Smile was, because I'm hearing a lot of good buzz already from people that say it's at Sundance. As for Demeter, I'm all for a nice horror vampire type flick.
Okay, as for Talk to Me, which one is that?
Oh, Talk to Me is the new A24 one coming out. It looks great. Instead of a Ouija board, there's like this creepy hand thing that you clasp hands with.
I watched this trailer. It looks
Oh,
horrifying.
wait a sec.
so
Didn't they
good.
drop like a preview for that like ages ago? Didn't like the first thing for that actually come out a long time
I saw
ago?
it scrolling online of just, you clasp the hand and commune with the dead. Blah, blah, blah.
We're gonna
Okay,
do
now
it.
the other
Take
one,
my
though,
hand.
the other one, bring it up again. Bring up the question
Voyage
again.
of the Demeter.
Yeah, I believe they showed us, Ray, and help me out. They showed us.
They showed us
preview
some
for
footage
this
of that at CinemaCon.
At CinemaCon last year.
And that is written also by the same writer behind Bullet Train, Zachary.
That's right,
So
yes.
this is his latest film coming out. Very different vibe. Very, very different vibe.
But I remember we liked the preview they showed us at CinemaCon last year. We were like, what was the other one
it
where
looks real creepy.
the one with the people in the streets? Remember that one? Like all of us kind of freaked out about it, and I don't know if it ever came out. We just kind of, everybody loved the preview for it. It was another horror movie.
It was like the zombie one, right? Or like
It was something where I just kept going, nope.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Because it was nope, and then you going, we're going to watch that one. No, we're not.
I gotta watch that one. But but then I think maybe I heard it didn't actually work out so well. Anyway, I can't even remember what it was. All right, is that it?
That's it.
And guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and being part of our day. Big special thank you to all you guys who, number one, send in those tip questions because you gave us great things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it. And all that's involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Before we sign out, a little bit of a call out here. Today is Taylor's last day with us. You know, about a number of months ago, I put out a call because I was looking for an assistant. I have not always had the best luck finding assistants, but I got a lot of people apply, like way more. I hate interviewing people. And it came down and I ended up choosing Taylor. And it was one of the best decisions that I could have made. Taylor, in an industry where people think this is what's important, and this is what's important, and this is what's important. To me, the most important quality about somebody, about anybody you work with, and I don't care what field it is that they be dependable and reliable. Nothing, no trait is more important to me than that. The ability to say to somebody or have somebody say to you, hey, I'll take care of that, or I'll get that done. And just knowing that it will be done, that you don't even have to think about it anymore because you know that person is dependable and reliable every time. That is a huge thing, and it's not all that common. Taylor Gonzalez has those traits. And one of the better decisions I made was hiring him as my assistant. He has been reliable and dependable. When he says something's going to get done, or you ask him, hey, can you make sure this happens? You don't even have to worry about it getting done. It'll get done. And for that, I am very grateful. Now, he's got bigger and better things to look forward to and to move on to. And we're moving him in here. Yeah, move over to Chris's camera there, Taylor. Move over to Chris's thing.
I look like shit now.
Oh,
My hat fell
what do you
off.
mean now?
I know.
Taylor, you have been like a in a storm and stuff when you never know when people are going to come through for you, especially in this industry, right? To have somebody in the office who you always knew you could depend on has been a rock around here. So thank you for everything that you've done. You're going to do great things with whatever the things you move on and try to do from here. So what the hell is that in your hand?
I brought Krispy
This was
Kreme.
a
Oh, is that you who brought in Krispy
We've got our
Kreme?
Krispy Kreme hats.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's a
okay. Well, then
callback
that's
to
even
that
better.
when
We got the
when
Krispy
first
Kreme
started.
guy.
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah, it's because I'm so short. And
Yeah, I have
do you
to
have
lower
my
it,
butt
so there
pad
you go.
still?
No.
Okay.
So Taylor, thank you.
This is
And
the best I've ever looked.
any departing thoughts?
So I've been here 9 months, which Chris has told me is long enough to make a baby. Which
It
I
is.
don't
The
know
one
anything-
baby anniversary.
yeah.
I don't know anything about that. But I just wanted to say, this was like the opportunity. We're not live. We're not live. No,
Mics aren't hot.
Sorry, this is like the opportunity of a lifetime, and just thank you so much to everyone who showed me kindness and support and love, and I really appreciate you guys so much.
And you can follow him on his own channel.
And on social media at 50 Shades of Tay with 3 Ys.
3 Ys and 0 dads, you guys.
And 3 Ys and 0 dads. Thank you again, Taylor. And guys, make sure you go and follow Taylor on that. And now I guess there are Krispy Kreme donuts to be eaten.
Hey, and maybe he'll be able to come back every now and then.
Oh, yeah,
join us, you know?
absolutely. When he's free to stick his nose in, of course.
It's a big loss today with Taylor going. I just had to add that. He's one of the coolest additions we've ever had.
I love him so much.
It's been great having him in here. So, guys, thank you again for being here today. Have a fabulous weekend, everybody. May you have a fabulous one planned ahead of you with fun, relaxation, whatever it is you need, getting you ready for another week of triumph and victory that lies ahead, starting up again on Monday. We'll talk to you next time, guys. My name's John Campea, and until then, my friends, bye-bye.